What up, Panther Nation? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Rob Star Report. Your host is always Clay Rob. It's a late one. It's 9 o'clock at night. The reason why we're doing this is because, well, Dan Morgan did a press conference, and I felt like it was important that we go ahead and talk about it, number one. Number two, the NFC South Roundtable did get canceled tonight. So I was like, got to make up for it somehow. Just posted up a short about 10, 15 minutes ago about Bryce Young's fifth-year option. They are picking it up. Y'all know how I feel about that. I mean, I really don't even need to dive into that much to tell y'all how I really feel about, the Bryce Young getting his fifth-year option picked up, because we all know how I feel about it. Again, I think y'all got to look at it this way. He's only getting paid $26.5 million. That would rank around the 15th among quarterbacks in 2026 and around 18th among quarterbacks in 2027. So, not that expensive. Not that expensive. All right. What's good, Marcos? What's good, Trizzy? See you guys in the chat. Shout out to you guys, man. Appreciate you guys. Again, like, picking up his fifth-year option makes total sense. You know what I mean? Like, I was gonna dive into because I want to talk about the press conference. All right. I really want to dive into that press conference, which we're going to tonight. That's really what we're going to be diving into. We're going to be diving into that press conference, man. Why did that go away, bro? Where's the one I'm looking for, though? There it is. Ari always has the best ones most of the time because it has the most information on it. Shout out to Ari. All right, so I wasn't really going to dive into this much, but let's dive into it because I feel like we got to. Again, like I said, man, here's the thing. I think, Dan Morgan makes it official. And honestly, this was the most predictable, correct decision they could have made. And this wasn't some bold declaration that Bryce is a finished product or future MVP. So let's make that perfectly clear. It's a practical, grown-up football decision rooted in cap math. And roster reality. And the simple truth that the Panthers are better off moving forward with Bryce than starting over again. All right? Because it's not like they can start over again. It's not like they pick somebody up and we're able to get them. We're able to draft somebody. They're 19th overall. It's not like we're going to get a first round pick to go up and get somebody else. You know what I mean? It's not that's not the case. That's not the case here. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the first overall pick. And we'll talk and we'll dive into what Dan Morgan said because we're going to watch the press conference and I'm going to give you my key takeaways from it. But I mean, we got to think about it this way. Bryce Young finished with the best season of his career. Like I said in my short, 63.6 completion percentage, over 3,000 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and 87.8 passer rating, 8-9, won an NFC South Division title, first playoff appearance since 2017. And again, that's not elite, but it's real progress, like especially considering that he did it behind that offensive line that was consistently shuffled by injuries. And an offense still finding its damn identity. And that showed up and here's the thing. Against the Rams, Bryce Young threw for over 260 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception. But the biggest thing that I took away from that game was how he reacted to the interception. He didn't fold. He went toe-to-toe with Matthew Stafford. He gave them a fourth quarter lead. That's the stuff that does matter that I don't think people give him a lot of credit for, right? I don't think that they give him a lot, like they don't give Bryce a lot of credit for that. All right. But again, the Panthers have until May to formally exercise it, the 5th-year option. Once they do, the Bryce will be under contract through 2027 season. Now, this does not affect the 2026 salary cap unless the team extends him. Okay. So as for the cost, thanks to that 2020 CBA, the option is tiered. So basic is 22.9 million. Playtime will be 26.53 million. One Pro Bowl will get him 39.7 million. Multiple Pro Bowls could get him like 46 million, right? So Bryce qualifies for the playtime tier, right? So that puts him puts his cap hit around 26.53. Again, I said it earlier, it's among 15th among quarterbacks in 2076. It'll be 18th among quarterbacks in 2027. So it's not that expensive. Again, it's middle of the road starter money. It's only going to look cheaper as more quarterbacks get paid. But why this makes the only logical sense, ladies and gentlemen, is that let's walk through the alternatives, because none of them make more sense. You decline the option, right? If you decline it, it would have turned the 2026 contract into a contract year circuit. So Bryce, what happens is, if you decline the option and Bryce goes out there and plays well, then the Panthers would have had to franchise tag him and then double the cost, or negotiate from a position of what? They have no position, right? So again, he didn't play well, but if he didn't play well, you're right back in quarterback hell. And trying to find another guy to come in. So the other part of it is if you release Bryce Young, this one obviously isn't even serious, but you cutting or letting Bryce Young walk would shove Carolina back into the same quarterback market that they've struggled in for years. With the 19th overall pick and a reputation for burning through coaches and quarterbacks, that's not a reset. That's malpractice. You extend him now, right? Also non-starter. Bryce hasn't earned a $40 million contract, $40 million plus extension yet, in my opinion. He knows it. I think the team knows it. No one should be negotiating that type of contract right now. This isn't the time to bet big money, right? It's time to gather more information. I think the 5th-year option does exactly that. So why this is a smart bet, because even if Bryce isn't the guy, right? Here's the key part I think a lot of people miss. You pick up the option, doesn't lock the Panthers with him into anything long-term. If Bryce continues to improve, great. You've got a starting quarterback at a reasonable cost. If things fall apart, that $26 million cap hit doesn't prevent you from drafting a quarterback in 2027, carrying a bridge starter, resetting without dead cat hell. It's flexibility. That's what it's called. So right now, Bryce Young is far from the biggest problem on this roster, in my opinion, because we need help at the edge rusher. We need help at the linebacker room. We need help in the offensive line depth, because now you look at the free agency, right? You're going to need help at probably the safety position, because hopefully they don't bring Nick Scott back. Quarterback isn't where you burn everything down again, right? The quarterback isn't where you burn everything down again. So again, Bryce showed growth. He handled the pressure. He led comebacks. He finished the game strong. He helped drag a younger roster to a division title and nearly pulled off a playoff upset. Is he inconsistent? Right? Yes. Is he consistent yet? No. Is he elite yet? No. Is he worth continue to build around to see what you got? Absolutely. The 5th-year option is a coordination. It's it's a vote of confidence paired with accountability. So basically what the Panthers are doing and Dan Morgan, this front office, are doing is they're betting that Bryce Young's best football is still ahead of him. And given that the alternative is, that's a bet worth making. Again, if he plays, great, right? Right? Because, again, you build around him, see if he takes the next step, right? If he doesn't take the next step, well, at least you built the roster up for somebody else to step in 2027, right? Again, and you don't lose anything from him. You don't go into dead cap hell with him. You don't do anything. You can get a bridge guy in, whatever. It's a smart move because, but then again, here's also another issue. Here's another issue. If you didn't pick up the 5th-year option and he goes out there and balls out, then you're going to have to pay him double. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You know? Marcos Cash, I'm gonna report you, man. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. I would never do that. It's just a joke. Relax. You got to have fun with it. But anyways, again, so your options were very limited. Okay. You know, I think the smart move was to pick it up because then you can see if he balls out, great. If he doesn't, you don't lose anything, right? You move on. You get a bridge guy to come in, or you built the roster up for somebody to immediately come in and win now, or you draft somebody in 2027. Like, again, it's a win-win situation. The way that they did it is a very flexible deal, and I'm all for it. I'm all for them picking up the 5th-year option. What's up, guys? All right, so let me give a shout out to everybody in the chat already. We got Marcos, we got Trizzy, we got Hayden, we got Underground West, we got Panthers boy Nate. What's up, man? SE Point, Panthers boy 803. What's good? Shout out to Broski Bear in the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Who else is in here? Who am I missing? Zach Lomax. What's good? Sean J. Y. What's good? There we are. All right, so we just broke down the 5th-year option, how everything's going to work, how everything is, how it's a win-win situation. Again, just go look at the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you're picking up the 5th-year option to see what you got left, to see if he can take a next step forward. And again, you build a roster up. If he takes a step forward, great. If he doesn't, guess what? You just built the roster for someone to either immediately step in. You could bring in a bridge guy to get the guy you want, or you can draft someone. And again, so that gives you a lot of options to still be flexible to, be in a position to win now, right? I mean, if that's what they said. So I hope Bryce takes a step forward, because if they do if they build this roster up the right way and he can take a step forward, great. If he doesn't, again, I'm not going to be upset about it either, because I know that they built this roster up. We're either going to get a bridge guy, we're going to draft someone, or we're going to get someone to come in that can win now. And that's fine by me. I'm okay with that, because that's what they're doing here. It's better that you pick it up now than him go out there and ball out. And then guess what? You have to pay him double. Or again, the best thing about it is too, if he shits the bed, you move on. It's very simple. I mean, I think a lot of people look into this and they're like, oh my God, he picked up his 5th-year option, but he hasn't done shit. Relax. Just relax. It's really not that big of a deal. And you're getting the middle of the pack. You're paying him the middle of the pack. You're basically paying him as a top 18 quarterback. Is he top 18? Probably not. Top 20. Based off his numbers this year, I think he's top 20, if I'm not mistaken. I think his completion percentage is up in the top 15 though. Let me go look at his stats real quick. The money, again, that's what I'm saying, Marcos. Money-wise, it makes sense. All right, so we got a long press conference. Let's get through that. Let's go ahead and get into it. Shout out to everybody in chat. I will get to anybody's questions or comments. Can't wait to see Shoney Styles in a Panthers uniform. We'll talk. Listen, man, don't you worry. Poppy Roppy right here at the Rob Star Report is going to have you some good draft content this year. All right, let's get into Mr. Dan Morgan. Let's hear him out. I don't know if how many of you have watched this. I'm going to give you my biggest takeaways from this. Because again, we've already talked about the 5th-year option, so we probably won't talk about that again. But we will talk about what he talked about with the free agency. We'll definitely talk about Rico Dowdle. Because I know he talked about Rico Dowdle. I heard reports. And some more stuff.
See everybody. It's been a little while since I've talked to you guys, so excited to talk to you guys. Just a few thank yous just before we get started. Just talk about the season, and then I'll answer any questions that you guys may have. First off, just wanted to acknowledge our ownership, Dave and Nicole Tepper. They're a great example of how to operate a team, selfless, no egos. And they've just been a big reason for our success with how they operate together and support and trust myself, Dave, and Brant to do our jobs. And we definitely don't take that lightly. Christy Coleman and the business side, we appreciate their support. Getting the game day atmosphere the way that it's been awesome, and she's done a great job on that side. My crew, working with Brant, Jared Kirksey, Lee McNeil on the pro side. We have a lot of good chemistry going on over there, and they're great teammates, and we're looking forward to putting a free agent plan together, setting the draft board, and getting this thing going.
Sean, great question. I was just looking at it today and I took note of it. Give me a second. Let me look at it real quick. So as it stands right now, the Panthers have $28.5 million in cap space. That's per over the cap. They'll be able to roll over another $24 million or so in unused cap space from the 2025 season. So that gives them little over $50 million to play with this offseason. So, Sean, I hope that answers your question. We'll have over 50 if that 24 million, if that's correct, if the 24 million rolls over from this season, we'll have over $50 million in cap space. We'll have over $50 million in cap space. So, if that 24 million rolls over from this season into next, if that's correct. This past season was what I mean. All right.
Really want to thank our fans for all the love and support that they gave us throughout the year. The environment was just unreal on Saturday night. Kind of gave me chills sitting up there, just looking at the crowd, looking at the fans, looking at the excitement, the city coming together, this region coming together, the Carolinas. It's just amazing what football.
What's up, Carolina Real? What's good?
Can do to a community. So it was just awesome to see. And, I can't thank the fans enough for coming out, supporting us, and just showing us love all season. Wasn't perfect throughout the season, but you guys stuck in there with us through thick and thin. And again, we really appreciate that. Coach Canales and his staff, they spend a lot of hours in the office away from their families. That definitely doesn't go, we don't take that lightly. We know they put a lot of work in and they're away from their families. So we really appreciate them just for their hard work and dedication to the team throughout the season. Talk about Dave a little bit, just his leadership, how optimistic he is, his football acumen, and just his ability to, develop our players, lead our players. And he's just done a great job of really shifting the culture and, making this culture a winning culture. Like, we're expecting to win now. We're not, coming into.
So what he just said there, I took away from that. Just the way he was just talking about this is a win now. I mean, I think that's a huge statement, right? I think it's a huge statement, which means the pressure is going to be on Dave Canales this season, ladies and gentlemen. It's win now. You're in your third season. It's win now. He's going to have, I guarantee you, he's going to have to win this division again, or somehow, you're going to have Dave Canales is going to have a, with the schedule we got coming up next season, that's a big pressure point. For him to say that we're in win now mode is, I get it, because we're in their third year. But, Morgan isn't going to be I just don't have this feeling that Dan Morgan's going to be going full Madden mode in free agency. But we'll dive into that. But win now, pressure is really on Dave Canales, and you're going to have to win this division with a 10-plus win record, I think. And that's going to be tough with that schedule next year. So, but Dan Morgan, you better build this roster to do that. It's not just a one-way street. I get that it's a win now mentality, but you've got to be the one to be able to build the roster around the coach and these players. So, just saying.
The season, unsure. We feel like we know where we are. We feel like we know who we are. And we're just ready to get to work. And we got to earn everything that we get, we have to earn. We know this season's going to be wiped away. 2025, we're going to transition into 2026. But we got to earn everything. We got to earn everything. And it's only going to be by hard work, our players staying together. And I've just really seen our locker room just really come together, family environment. This is the type of environment that we want to create here in Carolina, is a family environment that attracts all type of free agents, all type of guys. Obviously, we're going to select the right guys for our culture.
So basically, he's going that's why I said I knew he was going to say this. He's not going to go full Madden mode on the free agency, like I said. This season might have arrived earlier than expected. I'll say that because Morgan was clear. They're not changing the team building approach just because they made the playoffs. You can already see that from what he's talking about in this press conference.
For our scheme. And I just think Dave's done a great job. And he's definitely a coach that I would want to play for if I was still playing. Also, just, want to recognize and acknowledge the people behind the scenes, the equipment staff, getting the players on the right cleats, the right equipment, washing the clothes, the chefs making the food, fueling our players, our analytics department giving us information, that we can make informed decisions on. So, they're behind the scenes. They're not always talked about, but obviously we really appreciate them. Special shout out, just to Denny Kellington and Josh Hingst. We went from the bottom half of being injured last year to the top half, this year. So we went into the playoffs with a pretty much healthy team, and that's hard to do in this league. And I just think they've done a great job. So I just wanted to shout them out. In terms of the season, I love the way our players competed on a day-to-day basis and a game-to-game basis. It wasn't always perfect, but you can really feel the chemistry and the continuity of our team really come together as the season went on. Our locker room was tight. Again, it was like a family environment in there, and that's what we want here. We want these guys to be close because we're only going to go as far as the players, they got to be close in order to go where we want to go. And this is definitely a close locker room. It's made up of the right guys. And from my seat, we'll continue to add guys, that fit the mold for the type of player that we want to add into our culture. We have a high standard of play. We're smart, tough, physical, high effort, play with high energy. And, we just have to uphold that standard on a game-to-game basis, no matter where we play, who we play, what time we play. We have to uphold that standard. And I know our players know that, and they're hungry to get back at it and attack the offseason. As it pertains to the roster, again, I feel like we have a strong foundation of guys. I think that they – it's definitely something foundation-wise that we can definitely build upon. And that's my job and my team's job and coach's job and all of us collaborating together to bring the right guys and build this thing the right way. We're still going to be patient. We're not going to be reckless, but we're going to definitely attack our weaknesses like we've done in the past couple of years. So, with that, I'll open it up to any questions you guys have.
Dan, how much can you share with us regarding Evero's contract extension?
Yeah, so we aligned him and Dave up, before the season, and we think highly of EJ. EJ has a really great football mind. We love his defense. It's a really aggressive defense. And, I think as we continue to add players to the defense, I think that you'll see this defense kind of come together. We made a lot of improvements on the defensive side of the ball this year, and we'll continue to get better and add pieces. And, we're up for that challenge.
That's the big, you aligned his contract and Canales prior to the 25 season?
Yes, correct.
You said, excuse me, when you were first brought in this role, how it was your dream to see the stadium with fans waving towels, as you've seen as a player in 03. With what?
Okay, come on. So they aligned it. With Dave Canales when he came in. That's interesting. So they aligned it. But that's very interesting. Hold on, let me finish what he had. Let me hear what he has to say the rest of this.
You saw Saturday. What does that tell you about where you are at this point versus where you thought the team would be right now?
I think it definitely tells us that we're on the right path. Again, though, just to hit on that a little more, but like that.
Well, first things first, let's break down what he said. So basically, Morgan's reasoning on why they extended Evero is because he feels that if you are around Ejiro every day, you see how smart he is and how he works. Morgan believes in Evero's defense and philosophy. Evero is really good at developing players. Morgan said it's also his job to give Evero the right personnel, and they're going to attack the needs and keep adding talent to this roster. So this defense can keep ascending. So again, we can't deny the jump, right? 2024 defense, chat, 404.5 yards, ranked 32nd. Points per game, 31.4 we averaged, setting an NFL single season record for most points allowed. 2025 defense, we were ranked 16th in points per game. We were 15th. So that's a massive improvement. Not elite, but very respectable and a hell of a lot less embarrassing, right? And per the reporting tied to Canales' comments, Evero's deal now will run through 2027 unless he decides to take another head coaching job, or unless he takes a head coaching job, right? But I think that's where a trade would have to come in for him to be able to go do that, since tied him in to that contract. I'm pretty sure. But either way, the franchise has already committed to him, which I did not realize that. Carolina Real comes in and says, what do you think we should pick in free agency, Clay, A.J. Brown, or Romeo Doubs? Romeo Doubs. Not A.J. Brown. I don't want a guy who, I mean, dude, I'm going to make a short about A.J. Brown because I think the Eagles need to get rid of him. A.J. Brown is a cancer to that locker room. He's a cancer to any locker room, I'll be honest with you. A.J. Brown is a great talent, don't get me wrong, but they force-fed him the ball because he was complaining so much, and he folded like a cheap tent in that San Francisco game. So I'm good on A.J. Brown. I'm good on A.J. Brown. All right, let's continue.
Atmosphere was unbelievable. Like, I was here in 2003, 2004 when we played the Cowboys in that playoff game, and I've never seen the crowd like that. So again, that was unbelievable, and really a credit to them for showing up and showing out and, you know, supporting our team. So yeah, it's definitely what I envisioned when I took this job. But I see even bigger things moving forward to where this is going to be a consistent thing and not just a flash in the pan.
Dan, there were maybe some questions about Bryce, even though he finished last season, you know, on a high note.
Yeah.
But still, this was a big year for him. What did you see out of him, and do you feel like he's like the franchise?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, just to hit on Bryce, we're going to pick up his fifth-year option. You know, I think Bryce has shown, you know, flashes of greatness this year against high-level competition. You know, I think just as a team, we weren't as consistent as we wanted to be on a game-to-game basis. But I think that's part of what happens when you have a young team. You have a young team that's building continuity and, you know, kind of figuring themselves out. So I think Bryce did a great job this year, and just really excited about moving forward and him still developing chemistry with our receivers and just the pieces around him that we had.
What did you see you liked out of his play?
I would say, you know, if you look at Bryce on a day-to-day basis out there, his work ethic out there, his ability to command the huddle out there, take control of the line of scrimmage, make the proper checks, make the proper protection calls, and then really having that translate into Sunday or Saturday or whenever we play. I just felt like he had a lot more command out there this year, and really just kind of like coming into his own and getting better every week, and you know, just attacking every day. And that's really all you can ask for, you know, just from any player, let alone your quarterback.
And Dave didn't have a real good idea of Icky's timeline couple days have passed since we talked to him. Do you have a better idea of what it might look like, and how does that injury impact the contract discussions that y'all had been having?
So he didn't get a surgery yet. So timeline wise, I really don't have anything for you guys. So like, we're going to obviously take that on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. From my seat, obviously, like, yeah, we have to plan accordingly, and which we'll do. We'll gather up, I'll talk with Bran, I'll talk with Coach Canales. We'll come up with a plan as we gather more facts. But yeah, I think it's just too early right now to, really know timeline-wise when he's going to be back.
Contract discussions?
Yeah, contract stuff. Again, that stuff, it's 2 days removed from the season. So myself and Bran and Coach Canales, we'll all get together. We'll talk about, a plan moving forward and go from there.
Dan, you've improved by 3 wins in each of the last 2 seasons by using that patient, not reckless approach. But you guys have had selective splurges. Do you anticipate the offseason being similar to that? Or do you, with the win now mentality, do you find yourself being more willing to maybe go at the approach a little bit more aggressively?
Well, I think we're always going to have the win now mentality. Even last year we had the win now mentality. We're going to do what's best, just for the organization, and we're going to trust our plan. We're going to trust our processes. We're not going to be reckless. But at the same time, we're going to bring talent in here. We're going to moves that we, feel like will help us out in the future, and, who that is, whether it's a free agent or draft, or, we're going to attack it. And we're going to make the right moves.
At the 19th.
Get some notes. So, like I said, he said that he's not going to be going. Like I said, he's not going to be going full free agency mode. Morgan has made it clear that they're not changing the team building approach just because they made the playoffs. Someone asked if he'll be more aggressive in free agency. Now he basically said that again, they're in that win now mentality. We're going to do what's best for this organization. They're going to trust our plan processes, and we're not going to be reckless. So, yes, he's going to bring in talent and make moves that help the future, whether that's through free agency or the draft. So, no desperation spending, no one-year trophy case, but also not sitting on their hands. It's called controlled aggression is what he's going to be doing. Right. He's reminding people that they came out swinging early last year, too, signing multiple players right away. Tre'von Moehrig, Tershawn Wharton, right? Getting Bobby Brown III as well. Right. And then the next day they got some more guys. All right. And they, we already talked about the Ejiro Evero thing. So again, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to take the same approach he had last year, which I expected him to do.
The overall pick coming up in the draft, a little lower than you have been picking in recent years. What's your general early approach to that? What do you think of the draft class, and what do you prioritize?
Yeah, I think we've done a lot of work already on the draft. Like I think we already have like 600 and some guys on the board. It's early. Picking at 19, I mean, there's going to be a good player there. So we'll have optionality on what we want to do. I think everything's on the table. I think there'll be a really good player there if we want to pick. But again, I'll leave all options on the table. And at the end of the day, we'll get a good player right there.
Value of Rico Dowdle, he seemed to be kind of up in the air. He was not really happy with his carries the last part of the season because they decreased. Can you explain why they decreased? It had anything to do with not planning to re-sign him? Just kind of where you.
No, I think it's more just the flow of the game type thing, and there's only so many carries to go around. There's only so many drives, and I think it just kind of worked out that way. And him not being as productive on the back end, or just our running backs in general not being as productive on the back end, I think all that works together. The offensive line has to be right. our receivers have to be blocking right. So it's not just one guy or one thing. They all have to work together for the run game to get going. In terms of Rico re-signing him, or, I think it's still early in the season. I think you let those guys, get a break, just kind of like assess if this is the right fit for them. And we'll do the same thing upstairs. We'll talk about a plan of action, and then we'll go from there.
Rico strongly suggested, again online yesterday too, that he might be looking to move on. Has he given you that indication?
I met with him. I had a really good conversation with him at the, in my office upstairs. I meet with all the players before they leave for the off season. He didn't give me any indication of that. I thought we left on a good note. Yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. We'll just take it day by day.
And staying in the running back group, Jonathon Brooks obviously didn't play this year.
So Rico Dowdle, there's another one right there. I was interested to figure out what he was going to do. So this is one of the situations where the public vibe and the front office vibe don't perfectly match, right? Rico Dowdle was this team's lead rusher this year. He is a free agent. He hinted after the season he wants a spot where he can get bulk of the workload. Morgan asked if he thinks, got asked if he thinks he wants out, right? And basically from that response that I've gotten is he said he met with Rico down in his office, had a good conversation, didn't indicate he wants out. They left on a good note. All right. And he goes, we'll see where it goes from here. That's not a we're signing him answer. That's not we're open to it. Or we're not begging answer. Rico Dowdle had great production, over 1,000 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, over 236 carries, had over basically 300 yards receiving, finished 14th in the NFL rushing. But his late season production fell off hard, ladies and gentlemen. He only had a little bit over 100 yards rushing on 33 carries over the last 4 games, including the playoffs. So he also referenced that his late dip wasn't just on him. If you listened to what he said Morgan pointed to the entire machine needed to work together. The offensive line, receiving, receiver blocking, overall flow of the games, right? So that's also worth noting because when Hubbard got banged up, right, Dowdle took over and had ridiculous 2-week stretch, over 200 rushing yards, a touchdown against the Dolphins, 239 scrimmage yards and a touchdown against the Cowboys. But in the playoff game, Hubbard took over the lead role with, again, 13 carries to Dowdle's 5, which doesn't exactly scream future for Rico Dowdle here. Now, I'm interested to this next question that he's going to get asked because I heard Jonathon Brooks.
What is his future with this team as it stands right now?
Yeah, first off, just seeing Jonathon around the facility every day, the way that he attacks his rehab, the way that he attacks the weight room, just always around the building with a smile on his face. He's been through so much adversity and he's overcoming it, and he's looking great. He's running really well. I saw him out there running routes the other day. He looked great. So yeah, he's doing really good. I'm really proud of him and the way he's attacked this, rehab process. It's not easy, and he's done great at it. So we'll see where he's at. Again, we'll take it like week by week, month by month, but he's headed in a good direction.
Yeah, to follow up on that question, Tre'von Wallace and
So Jonathon Brooks, basically he addressed it there, addressed some what happened type of players. Jonathon Brooks is one of those guys we've been waiting on to hear back from. What's the case on that? Basically he's just said he sees him every day, loves his attitude, how he attacks rehab, says he runs well. You saw Brooks running routes recently. He said he looked great. They're going to take him week to week, month to month, but he's heading in a good direction. Again, when you look at it, you drafted Jonathon Brooks 46th overall in 2024, even though he tore his ACL at Texas the previous year. Then he didn't debut till week 12 of his rookie year. Tore the same ACL again 3 games later. I mean, I get it's brutal luck, and I could tell Dan Morgan is rooting for him. I just don't know if I'm willing to say that that kid's going to come back and be anything close to what we saw him at Texas. Another thing I wanted to say was that I didn't mention was the draft that he talked about, the draft at the 19th overall pick. What the plan is there. I did not mention my takeaways from that, but he did talk about it. And basically he said that, we're currently slotted at the 19th overall pick. Said they've already done a ton of work. He said like 600 and some guys on the board. He says it's early, but the point is they're already grinding at that draft. So his main message to that is picking 19th means that there will be a good player available. They'll have options, and so he said everything's on the table. He also referenced last year's first round pick, Tre'von McMillan, right? Who had a great season. Should be the winner of the offensive rookie of the year, in my opinion. Go vote. That's the kind of pick that changes the timeline, which is why the stay the course message matters. They believe that they could keep stacking hits no matter what. So that's another thing I love to hear. But the Jonathon Brooks thing, I would not hold your breath on that. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Wouldn't hold my breath on it, chat. Would not hold your breath on it.
If you're looking at other members of that draft class, had kind of rough years. Where are you at with the two of those guys as starters on your team, as well as their outlook for the future?
Yeah, I feel good about them. I think, we're also quick to, judge these guys, and, they're maybe not developing as quick as, the outside ones, but, I think you got to be patient with these guys. I think you got to let them develop. I think you got to let them grow. I think Tre'von's still 22 years old. Xavier, it took him till his senior year to really start developing and coming into his own at South Carolina. So I think, we take a patient approach with those guys. We let them develop and keep getting better. And, we work with them and keep coaching them, developing them, and helping them out.
And back to the point about the 19th overall pick, and you've got 600 names on the board. As you go into this draft, as you're looking at your roster, and I know you got to figure out free agency to set up the draft, but do you have a general area of where you're looking to try to make improvements with the draft and bringing guys in to get into the culture of the development? And I mean, the rookies this year played a ton of snaps.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's
Joust, where are you getting the stat line of 519 rushing yards, 84 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing, and 1 receiving in those 3 games? Whose stats are that? Are those Dowdle's? In the 3 games you mentioned, I see what you're saying. You mentioned the Green Bay, Dallas, and Miami, and that was his stat line in those 3 games. Okay, I see it now, Joust. Never mind. Gotcha. Benji's got a theory, ladies and gentlemen. Look, Benji's got a theory. Over the past 3 years, we've improved by 3 wins every year. 2 and 15, 5 and 12, 8 and 9. So we should go 11 and 6. Sean's all ears and eyes. Then 14, 13, then 17 and 0. I hope that Dan Morgan's looking at Jacob Rodriguez. He's that dog. Yes. All right, let's continue.
a lot of guys. I would think this entire class and the philosophy going forward is similar.
Yeah, I think, with the 19th pick, I think you never really want to force a need. Now, if it's equal and you have 2 guys up on the board and they're even, I'm always going to go with the need. But yeah, I think with that pick, you ideally draft best available. You don't force a need, because I feel like in my experience, when you force a need, it really doesn't always turn out that good. So we're just going to draft good football players. And then same thing with free agency. We're just going to sign good football players. So that doesn't mean we're not going to attack the needs in some way, whether free agency or draft, but definitely just want to bring good football players, good culture people into this building.
You have those needs identified?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got them. Yeah, definitely. I think some of the needs aren't a secret. So I'm not going to, just from like a competitive advantage, really like name all the needs up here.
And back to Evero, you extended him on the heels of one of the worst seasons defensively.
Yeah.
Why do it at that time, and what gave you the confidence in him to extend that contract?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at EJ, if you're around him every day, you see the way he works, how smart he is. I believe in his defense. I believe in his philosophy. He's really good at developing players. Again, it's my job as well to, equip him with the right personnel. And again, it's a patience thing to where, we're going to attack those needs and we're going to get better across the board. And, I think as you see us keep adding talent onto our roster, players on our roster developing, I think you'll see that defense keep ascending.
And
How does your pitch to free agents change when you have tangible results to offer as opposed to a plan for building something?
Yeah, I think definitely having some success makes it easier to attract those free agents. But I would also say like having a coach like Coach Canales, I think guys are going to want to come here and they're going to want to play for him. Just the way that he carries himself, the enthusiasm that he has on a day-to-day basis, the way he leads those guys.
By the way, that was an interesting stance on Xavier Legette and Tre'von Wallace. Both had underwhelming sophomore seasons. Basically, Dan Morgan says his stance is patient. He basically said people judge too fast. Developmental timelines aren't linear. Both guys are still young, right? This season for Legette, 35 catches, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns. But the snap share fell late, including a career low of 31.4% from week 18. Wallace, again, 2025 stats, 61 tackles, 2 sacks, played 12 games. Season ended early due to that shoulder injury, second straight year. But Morgan also noted still only 22. Legette didn't fully break out at South Carolina until his senior year, so he's essentially asking people to chill and let these guys develop. So that's interesting. What else did he mention? There was another question.
Guys, this is a fun environment. We work really hard, but we also have fun doing what we do. And if I was a player, again, force a need, because I feel like in my experience, when you force a need, it really doesn't always turn out that good. So we're just going to draft good football players. And then same thing with free agency. We're just going to sign good football players. So that doesn't mean we're not going to attack the needs in some way, whether free agency or draft, but definitely just want to bring good football players, good culture people into this building.
You have those needs identified?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got them. Yeah, definitely. I think some of the needs aren't a secret. So I'm not going to, just from like a competitive advantage, really like name all the needs up here.
And back to Evero, you extended him on the heels of one of the worst seasons defensively.
Yeah.
Why do it at that time, and what gave you the confidence in him to extend that contract?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at EJ, if you're around him every day, you see the way he works, how smart he is. I believe in his defense. I believe in his philosophy. He's really good at developing players. Again, it's my job as well to, equip him with the right personnel. And again, it's a patience thing to where, we're going to attack those needs and we're going to get better across the board. And, I think as you see us keep adding talent onto our roster, players on our roster developing, I think you'll see that defense keep ascending.
Yeah,
How does your pitch to free agents change when you have tangible results to offer as opposed to a plan for building something?
Yeah, I think definitely having some success makes it easier to attract those free agents. But I would also say, like, having a coach like Coach Canales, I think guys are going to want to come here and they're going to want to play for him. Just the way that he carries himself, the enthusiasm that he has on a day-to-day basis, the way he leads those guys. This is a fun environment. We work really hard, but we also have fun doing what we do. And if I was a player again, I would want to play for a coach like that.
Are you comfortable with him continuing to call plays moving forward? Is that something that's still part of the plan, or is
This is the question.
I know that at times he's expressed some frustration on Sundays with the way the offense ran. There's been some discussion around that, but
Yeah.
you curious your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Coach does a great job first and foremost. I think that's really his call if he wants to, promote somebody into being the play caller or bring somebody from the outside. We haven't really talked about that. But that is something that I'm sure we'll talk about. We talk about it every decision together. So yeah, that's just something else that I'm sure we're going to talk about. And, if he feels like he needs to add somebody or promote somebody into being the play caller, then I trust him.
Bryce, you're picking up the.
Okay. So this one was where you could feel we need to evaluate everything in energy, right? Because that whoever asked that question, if he's comfortable with Canales continuing calling plays, a topic that we're going to be talking about this week on this channel. We're going to talk about it because Canales himself has touched on it too. Morgan basically says that that's Canales' call if he wants to promote someone internally or hire someone externally. They haven't really discussed it yet, but that's something they'll talk about, and they need to do it sooner rather than later. I'll be honest with you with how this coaching carousel is going on with guys already out there. They talk about every decision together, apparently, and Dan Morgan trusts Dave Canales if he feels he needs help or wants to hand it off. So that's not an endorsement. That's not a critique. That's just we're going to review it like adults answer. So, again, the offense did technically dip. Crazy to think about that. Technically, the offense dipped. 2024, over 298 yards per game, 20.1 points per game, right? 2025, this year we averaged 295.6 yards per game and only 18.3 points per game. So it's not a collapse, but it's not progress either. It's not like a major collapse, but it definitely could have been better, obviously. So, but that was a question I was waiting for because I'm going to critique Dave Canales this week on this channel. So,
fifth-year option. Might you start in on a contract extension talk prior to this next season, or do you want to see him play out that 26 season and then address the contract?
I think that's something that Brant and I are still talking about. We're still talking through the roster and just kind of like where things look from the big picture view. So yeah, that's stuff that's still up in the air that we're still working through at this point.
Sure, coming in, you had a plan, right? This is what I want to do year one, year two. After year two, with the NFC South Championship, with the playoff appearance, do you feel like you're ahead of schedule?
We, from the inside, I really don't put timelines on it. Kind of leave that for the outside. I think for us, we have a vision. We have a plan moving forward. We're going to stick to that plan, and we're going to build this thing one brick at a time. We have a good foundation right now. I think you're never one player away. So I think we got to be smart. We got to be disciplined in our process and our approach, like we've been, and just stick to that motto.
But Dan, plans obviously change. Like EJ's having interviews with other teams. If he were to leave, do you feel like you have a defensive roster that can adjust and adapt to multiple schemes? And if you were to go internally, do you feel like you guys are prepared in case EJ were to get one of those head coaching jobs?
Yeah, I think, obviously, if he gets a job, we're going to have a plan of action and we're going to go from there. But yeah, I feel like our personnel, I think it can fit any scheme. So if we need to adjust to a 4-3 or 3-4, if that comes, I feel like the personnel, we'll be able to adapt and adjust really quickly.
Back to Sebastian's question about timeline. You mentioned being patient with the defense. Dave has made a comment a couple of times about every mistake a rookie makes is an investment in your future. What is the balance between being patient, knowing you're building something long-term, and wanting to address stuff right away?
Yeah, I think, again, it comes back to just being patient and developing your players. I think we're always so quick to want to go get this guy or go get that guy, but sometimes the answers, they're already on your roster, and sometimes they're not. So, that's for us to look at, assess with the staff and talk through those things. But again, since I've been in charge, per se, we're always going to attack those needs, and be aggressive in those situations. And we're also going to develop the guys on our roster, and they're going to get better and they're going to grow. And we'll just be that type of program.
And you're projected to have the third highest offensive line payroll without a starting left tackle healthy and without a starting center. You guys haven't drafted an offensive lineman since you've been in charge. How much do you feel like you need to add cost control to that group?
Yeah, I definitely feel like that is an area that I'd like to add to, even before Icky's injury. We want to obviously keep our strength strong. And I think that, the only way to do that is, drafting young guys and, just stay ahead of the curve in terms of, positions and just kind of look ahead in that succession planning. But yeah, we feel good about our O-line. I'm glad we kept our core together this year because I think it really paid dividends for us this year. We had, I think, 15 different offensive line combinations. We didn't have the same offensive line combination play together, I don't think, all year long. So getting those guys back, I think, was huge for us because they had that familiarity with our system. And I think it definitely helped us in the long term.
And there are a few guys that stood out to you this season that maybe, you were on the fence about or just weren't sure about because you hadn't seen enough. Were there a few guys on this roster that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys, not to pinpoint one guy because, I was really proud of just in general how our guys competed and attacked every day out there. But I think there was a lot of really good things and, whether it's a young guy, that really showed up and showed out or, a guy that's been here and, he developed and he got better. I think there was a lot of guys that caught my eye that way.
Dave, you talked about Dave as a guy. Dave's a guy that you'd like to play for if you were a player again. Yeah. What did you see or how did you see him grow this year? I know he talked about the importance of going into other meetings more instead of just being focused on the offense. Where did you see his growth?
Yeah, I think that right there. And I think, every year, whether it's me or whether it's, somebody in our building, one of our scouts, we should be getting better every single year. We should always be looking for ways to improve. And Dave's no different. I just think he's done such a great job of his messaging to our players on a week-to-week basis, keeping them in a positive mindset. And like I said before, just developing that culture of winning, positive attitude. We're going into this game to win. We're not going into this game with any questions in our heads. So I just think he's done a great job of leading our team.
You had talked, you said earlier, we expect to win or whatever, but you got a long way to go. can you sort of quantify that a little bit? Like, I know what your goals are, but how far do you think you're away? You say you're not one player away. How far is this team away from going all the way?
Again, like we can talk about like, hey, I think we're going to the Super Bowl this year. Like that's our goal every year. Like we want to win the NFC South, have a home playoff game. We want to go to the NFC Championship. We want to win.
Sean, that's a great question. I mean, Dave Canales needs a real OC. Like this is a pivot point for Canales' tenure. I think if he wants to go from a promising to a dangerous offense, he has to delegate. Like he needs to bring in a legitimate offensive coordinator who can call plays, handle sequences, make adjustments on the fly, has the authority to push back, can focus entirely on the offense, not a yes man, not a puppet, system puppet. You need a real OC. So that can allow Canales to do what he actually excels at, managing the game, leading the locker room, developing Bryce, seeing the bigger picture on Sundays, right? Right now, he's trying to be a head coach, OC, situational manager all at once, and that's how details get slipped, and they have. So would Mike McDaniels be a good fit? I think from a run game standpoint, I think Mike McDaniels is very creative in his run game. From a play calling and from a passing game standpoint, I'm not so sure Mike McDaniel fits this roster, right? That's just me from a wide receiver standpoint. I could be wrong, but I mean, he's coming off that Kyle Shanahan tree, but he also had a bunch of speed down there. We really don't have a bunch of speed here besides Jimmy Horn Jr. That's the only thing I got to say about Mike McDaniel. I don't know how. I don't think he's a very creative passing play caller. I don't think he's a big time, OC in my opinion.
The Super Bowl, but I always go back to just we got to put the work in. Like everybody in this building, from myself to my scouts to the coaching staff, the assistants, the players, like nothing's going to be given to us. We have to earn everything that we want. So it's just about putting the work in and rolling our sleeves up, and that's how we're going to get to where we want to go.
And Jalen Coker's in kind of an unusual situation where he's kind of ascended to being a starter pretty early after being an undrafted free agent. He's going to be an exclusive rights free agent, can only negotiate with you guys. How do you weigh rewarding a player like that, plus also keeping an eye on the future and, his limited amount of reps and games in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of Jalen, just another guy that has been through adversity, with injuries and has overcome it. And a credit to him, he put the work in, he got his body right, reshaped his body, he looks like a different player. And it shows on the field, and again, it goes back to the work. You put the work in the off season, you put the work in during the season, like it's going to show on the field. And Jalen's a prime example of that just put the work in, and, he's a resilient guy. He came back and he played great. So in terms of the, contract and stuff, like that stuff, again, me and Brand are talking through, and, timing on when to extend him and give him a deal. That's all stuff we're going to talk about.
Did Bryce's ankle bother him the second half of the season at all?
I think, second half of the season, I think it's not just Bryce, it's every player. I mean, everybody's dealing with something. So
keep tweaking it. I didn't know if that was something that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was. He's the type of guy, he's never going to complain. He's going to go out there, he's going to practice, he's going to push through, and that's what you really respect about Bryce is he's a tough dude. He's a really tough dude. And if his ankle was bothering him, he sure enough didn't tell me, didn't tell coach. He just went out there and played. And again, he's selfless and he's a great teammate. And those are the type of guys that we want around here.
Do you feel like you got enough from your tight end room this year? Did you like the development, or is that an area?
That's interesting because he's talking about The question was there when he was talking about, Morgan just basically is open to adding a developmental quarterback and competition everywhere. Morgan also confirmed something that smart teams do even when they have their guy. He's also open to adding a young quarterback to develop behind Bryce. So his answer was, yeah, absolutely. And he framed it as competition in every room, quarterback included. So right now, the Panthers only have 2 quarterbacks under contract for 2026, Bryce and Andy, right? They tried to develop Brout last year too, signing undrafted Jack Plummer. He spent 2 preseasons with the team before they waived him in August. So don't be shocked if they draft a mid-round quarterback or bring in another developing body. That's just all it is roster management, and it's not an insult towards Bryce.
Where you think maybe there could be an opportunity for an upgrade?
I think the tight ends did a great job. I mean, from Tommy to Mitch, JT before he got hurt, James Mitchell coming in here late. We asked those guys to do a lot. We asked them to block in the run game. We asked them to protect. We asked them to run out on routes. So I think that we have a really good tight end room as a whole. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't add somebody in the tight end room. Again, we want to create competition at every position group. So that's not out of the question.
And can you speak to the chemistry that Mike Jackson and JC has developed over the past 2 seasons? And are you looking to extend Jackson beyond next season?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mike Jack and JC. I think arguably, one of the top corner, duos in the league. And again, they put the work in. They're always out there working with each other, taking the young guys under their wing. Really good leaders out there and type of guys that we want. We extended Mike Jack last year. And again, that's something me and Brand have to talk about. He'll have 1 year left on his deal this year. And then, so it's something that me and Brand will talk through and we'll come up with a, strategy.
In terms of this year's rookie class, it seemed like there were so many players that made big impacts on the team, whether it was a starter or out on the scout team. Was there anyone that kind of exceeded your expectations or surprised you?
I'm just really proud of all of them. I think that they all competed at a high level every single day. To come in as a rookie, it's not easy, and it's not easy to play that many games and be locked in. You're usually done playing your college season. They're not used to playing as many games as we played. So for them to come in on a week-to-week basis with the work ethic, that they showed, I just thought they were all really impressive.
T-Mac finished leading rookies across multiple categories. Good chance to win Rookie of the Year. When you drafted him, did you envision even this much? I mean, how much? What has this season been like for you, just watching him?
Yeah, I think we definitely envisioned, what we got. Otherwise, I don't think we would have drafted him at number 8. So he's done a great job. Just another guy that comes in, he works, attention to detail, and it shows out on the field on Sundays.
I know Matthew Stafford's a Hall of Famer and you didn't have J.C. Horn, but in that final drive as a former Pro Bowl defender, did you think you guys played too soft?
Again, I trust DJ and the defense that he puts out there. I'm never going to question what he does. I know he has a plan, and same way where I have a plan for attacking free agency, attacking the draft. He trusts me, I trust him, and that's what we have around here. We all trust each other to do our jobs, and I'm never going to question anything that he does.
Bryce, how do you balance the fact, the exuberation of everything you saw on Saturday night that was, I think you said, the best you've seen there, versus the fact you lost your last 3 games and 3 or 4 of your last 5? How do you balance that moving forward?
Yeah, I think we made a lot of progress, a lot of growth. a lot of development from our young guys, and even guys that were here. So we're really optimistic about the future. And like I said before, it's just about putting the work in. And, they have a taste now of that environment. If anything, I think it's just going to make guys even hungrier than they already are. The guys want to win around here. They want to bring a championship to this city, to the Carolinas, and that's their focus right now.
You guys have obviously brought in kind of a youth movement over the last 2 years, but you have 3 guys over 35 in Sam Martin, JJ Jansen, and Andy Dalton. How much longer do you believe those guys can still perform at the level that they are?
Yeah, I mean, they make we're the 5th youngest team, I think, in the NFL right now. So we'd probably be a little higher if we didn't have them on our team. But they're all good. They're all really good players, and they're guys that we value around here. I think that's something that we'll talk about. In terms of re-signing JJ. Re-signing all those guys. So. I think they can play as long as they want to, but it's a two-way street to where we have to figure out what's best for us, what's best for the Panthers. So we'll see moving forward.
Would you be open to developing a young quarterback behind Bryce?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we want to add competition to every room. Quarterback's no different. So yeah, that could be something that we do this offseason.
GM,
We'll do a couple more.
Is there a moment this season that will stick out to you as kind of like a core memory?
I think obviously there were some ups and downs during the season. I was just really proud of the way our guys in the biggest moments, they came and they competed. So you go into Green Bay to a hostile environment and you beat a team that arguably was.
So they're not talking about anything else special. Basically what I took away from that is we went over a few things, but if you boil this press conference down, Dan Morgan basically told everyone we're picking up Bryce Young's 5th-year option. We're going to build around him, plain and simple. He also said that they're not going to be reckless in free agency, but we're not being passive either. So they're going to basically be running the same. They're going to still be probably aggressive on day one and get some 2 or 3 good guys that they really want in here. Again, Evero seems like he's staying and has already been, we already know now has been extended through 2027. They already had that locked into place before any of us knew. Dowdle's future is unclear, and they're not promising anything. And he's talking about Jonathon Brooks, coming back. We'll see, right? That's all we can do with him. Play calling will be evaluated, but it'll come from Canales. Of that he's talking about bringing in competition. Competition is coming, so including maybe a potential another quarterback. The draft plan is pretty flexible. They've already got into it deep into scouting 600 players. Then Dan Morgan's preaching about patience on these younger guys like Leggett and Wallace. But it's a very realistic and probably the right approach because, again, this team proved that they can belong in big games. Now in 2026, it's going to be about whether they can stop being a cute story and start being a problem, and that takes upgrades, and coaching and personnel too, as well to elevate these guys as well. So and develop. So. We'll see. We will see, chat. So appreciate you guys coming on here with me. I know this was very last minute, but here we are. Appreciate everyone rocking with me tonight. Appreciate everybody coming through, joining the live stream. I wanted to just break down that press conference. And we did. So shout out to everybody in the chat for coming through, showing some love, showing support. Make sure you go check out the short, me talking about Bryce Young's 5th-year option. Just go over there, drop a like on that short. I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, guys, I will see you guys either tomorrow or Thursday. Shout out to everybody again in the chat. As always, y'all be safe. And again, keep pounding. Peace.